We are going live. Hey, besties and bosses. Happy Tuesday. Because I'm doing this from Zoom, I always got to pull up the group and make sure we are actually live so I can see your comments. So as soon as I see this going, we will start chatting, but y'all have to tell me hello. Happy Tuesday. How's your week been? There we go. We are live. How is everyone? I am so excited to chat. This is a topic that I think is pretty relevant today. I'm also laughing. My lip has been twitching since I did a co-working session with my girlfriend Lorianne, who we had on the podcast last week. We did a co-working session this morning, and ever since this morning, my lip has been twitching. So Lorianne or any of the clients I had calls with today, if my lip was twitching, it wasn't anything you said. It just hasn't stopped all day. So any of you in the group who are my health coaches or my people who know about this, you have to tell me what that means. Does this mean I'm like missing a vitamin or a nutrient or something? Or I don't know, maybe I need more sleep, something, but I'm very interested in knowing why my lip is twitching. So while we're chatting about this today, if you notice my lip twitching, it isn't the topic. It's simply that I've got a twitchy lip today. So hi, everyone who is here, say hello. What we are going to chat about today is social media strategy and selling. So what I put in, if you're on my email list and if you got the list around this, what I was sharing, I think this has just been in the zeitgeist. It's funny, I had this topic planned and I also saw a couple other people I know talking about it this week. So I think this is just on everyone's mind this week overall, talking about social media, talking about what's going on. I think we've had just overall this year with COVID, or the past year as well, I think everyone's been home more. So we're just all on social media that much more than ever before. I think it's something, as long as I've been in business, I've just seen the evolution of social media strategy, how that is playing a part in our businesses and helping us to build, grow, and scale businesses, and the strategy that goes along with that. I'm so grateful to the interwebs, by the way. I mean, just think of how nice it is that we can all connect here. I think sometimes we can get a little frustrated with it, but I think it's also just something as a reminder of some gratitude, how just think of how different all of our experiences would have been during Corona and this past year and a half. I guess it's been about a year, if we didn't have the internet and social media. And I think over the last few months, we've had things like Clubhouse roll out. I think social media is always changing and evolving, but we've seen on Instagram, first we had the stories roll out. There's always new features, but Reels have come out recently. I think there is noise about the algorithm changing. So there's just a lot going on. And if you are human and a business owner, and if you're anything like my clients, there is, I think, a lot of question marks that can come up as, sort of like, should I be on Clubhouse? I know we did a live stream about that. I'll link to that and my thoughts on Clubhouse. Hey, Heather, nice to have you. Just seen, I think I get the comments late. I think there are questions like, should I be doing Reels? I think the number one question, I was even asking this, if you're on Instagram, should I be doing Reels? I think these questions pop up. And then I think there's also just the noise in the brain. I know this one, you have to tell me. I mean, you don't have to tell me. We all will have to tell me if this comes up for you. I know this one comes up because I have heard this from so many people, but I think some of the judgments can also come up in terms of the new things. So it's like, but I don't want to have to get on video and point at things, and that's stupid, or fill in the blank. I don't have to shake my ass on camera for my business. So I think a lot of that noise can come up as well when we're looking at just the different things that have been rolling out on social media. So I wanted to chat about all the things today, and I wanted to talk to you literally what we call this, what I'm telling my clients when it comes to social media strategy and social strategy in general and selling. I want to look at this through a couple different lenses. I want to talk mindset first. If you've been hanging out with me, got to talk about the mindset angle first, because I do think there's some mindset stuff that is always coming up, but I think this is just one of, it's like anything. It's like when we talk about money, I think money is a lens to notice mindset. I think when there are changes, anytime there is a change, right, our brain hates fucking change. It resists change. So I think it's always interesting whenever there's changes happening, especially when it's related to our business and to money and what comes up around the brain. So I want to chat the mindset side of this. And then I also want to chat some of the practical, tactical stuff I'm chatting with clients about, just to give you some insights and ways to think about all the question marks you might have, all the noise you might have in the brain. So feel free, as we're chatting through this, to let me know if you have questions about any of this, if you have any specific questions or thoughts on how I'm perceiving any of this. I'm always so happy for the questions. This is for you. So let me just pull up. I think I actually have notes today. Sometimes, y'all, I don't have notes and I just riff for an hour, but I think I actually made notes today. I do have notes. Let me pull those up so I can make sure, because there were a couple of things I wanted to make sure I chatted about. So the first thing I want to chat was and then we're going to close this window because I don't need to see my face on Zoom. That's confusing. The first thing I wanted to chat about was the mindset side of things. And this is, okay, there we are connected. This is something I find really fascinating when I think this has particularly come up with Instagram Reels. And if any of you don't, tell me if you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm assuming most of you are on Instagram and know what I'm talking about with the Reels, but those are the little videos that people can clip together. And they originated from TikTok. I think that's where they originated, and Instagram, all the apps like to pick up what's working on other apps, and those are now on Instagram. A lot of business owners are using them. I'm sure you've seen them. It's where a lot of people are using them, where they're pointing in different things and images are popping up. And I saw this with Clubhouse as well, but the Reels are picking this one up particularly. And what I'm noticing a lot with clients, and when it comes to the mindset perspective, is really getting clear on the difference between judgment and discernment, and making sure you understand this difference when you're making strategic decisions in your business. So what I'm finding is happening is the judgment and discernment are getting collapsed together, and people are making or wanting to make, I won't let them because I lovingly give my clients a hard time, but I'm finding a lot of people are coming in with judgments and then using that as a place to want to make strategic decisions from. And what I want to offer, and I'll tease this apart and explain what I mean, but what I really want to offer for everyone here from a mindset perspective is when you're looking at your business and when you're looking at anything, whether it's social media strategy, or it is something in your sales process, or it's adding on a new offer, or it's getting rid of an offer, or it's, I don't know, bringing on a team member, the more you can get to a neutral place to make a decision and get clear on what actually serves your business what serves you in your business from a neutral place, the more you're going to make a decision that is strategic and serves you long term. The more you are wrapped up in emotionality and charged and triggered and not in neutral, the more you're going to make decisions that are based on an emotional reaction instead of a response, and that get very swingy. I think when COVID first hit, I think this is what we really saw the difference with business owners, people who took a moment to respond and get to neutral and then show up in business and serve, versus those who were like freaking out and reacting. It made a really big difference in the choices they were making. Same when we're looking at things like something as simple as Instagram Reels. What I'm finding is as soon as people are getting wrapped up into judgment, they're taking their judgment as an indication of like truth and thinking that is a great place to make a strategic business decision from. And I want to offer, and I want to talk about judgment a little bit, and offer when you're in judgment, this is actually a really great time to hit the pause button and to take a look at what your judgment about. And we'll talk a little bit about the judgment piece, and to look at how can you get to neutral and be discerning instead, and make your strategic decisions from a place of discernment instead of judgment. Now, judgment and discernment, the words themselves, the definitions are pretty similar. They're both essentially judging words where we're taking information and judging. What I want to talk about here is the difference between an emotional judgment where we're judging someone, where we're judging what someone's doing, versus discerning, taking some options and judging which one makes sense for you in your business. Does that difference make sense, y'all? And then, don't mind the silence. I promise for those of you, I have a feeling some of you want some of the practical stuff as well. We'll talk about it at the end. I should say though, for everyone live, what I'm not going to chat about today, this feels important because I don't want this to be misleading. I'm not going to give you how-tos on Reels. That's, if you know me, that's not what anyone should pay attention to me forever in terms of content. So judgment, and y'all have to let me know if you've noticed yourself judging a little bit around any of the things we're talking about. But judgment, judging someone else, especially when we're judging someone else for something we have not done yet, tends to say a lot more about us and what's going on with us, and is usually not a neutral mindset or emotion than the person we're judging. And so I find it really interesting when people are coming to me on a call and they're like, I don't want to have to do Reels, and it's so stupid. And oh my God, I don't want to have to be that person who's like shaking my ass and doing X, Y, and Z. And hey, I think it's human nature to judge a little bit. Like I think we all do this, but it's really interesting when we're coming in with some of this charged energy and noticing and just getting curious around, isn't that interesting if you're looking at something in your business and you're coming in essentially judging what someone else is doing as the barometer for whether or not you should do something. if my invitation to you is if that's something you're noticing, this is not me calling anyone out. Again, I think we all to some degree, I think it's sort of like a comparison. We're wired to compare. Comparing is a very human way your brain is wired. You're wired to compare. I think judging is something that is pretty normal for the brain to do. We're just looking at things all the time and stacking them up against one another to make sense of things. But I do think it's something to pause and like just hit the pause button if you notice yourself doing that. Whether it's with Instagram Reels, I think before Instagram Reels for a while, social media, like DMing people was something people were talking about quite a lot. And I know that was another thing people get super judgy around, just in terms of DMing people to sell. If you've ever received DMs, cold DMs, I get them all day long, y'all. And it's so easy to get judgy around that if you receive them. And I think it's just a really interesting, Ruth says I miss New York sirens. Oh, come visit. I'm sure we'll have at least a few more on today's live, as well as construction happening outside the window. But I think whenever you're judging someone else for doing something, again, really big invitation, especially when it's something in your business that you're not doing. I would invite you to hit the pause button and get curious. What is that judgment about? Why are you judging? And what does this really have to do? What does this say about you? It's sort of like, what's the, how do people phrase this? But it's sort of like in general, whenever we're judging someone, it usually says a lot more about us. And I think when it comes to something like social media or sliding into someone's DMs and selling, where it's like, oh, I would never do that. And I'm not suggesting anyone here talks like that, but I think this is how the brain can sound sometimes. And I think it's just interesting to notice, what is that really about? Especially if you haven't done it. Why are we judging? Like, why does the brain want to judge someone? Essentially for being brave, doing the best they know how, going out there, hustling to drum up some business. Is that because you think that strategy doesn't work? Do you have a story about it being sleazy? Are you scared of doing it? Do you think it feels stupid? I think it's just a really interesting thing to unpack where that judgment is coming from, because generally that means there's some interesting mindset work to look at. And again, this just isn't I think, a great place to make a business decision from. Even if what you unpack and find out is that doesn't feel good to me and that's not the way I want to run and operate my business, I still think it's an interesting thing to look at. And the reason for that, and I promise we'll talk practical in a second, but the reason for that is the other thing I really find with judgment when we're judging is we're essentially saying this is bad. I don't like that, right? If we're judging negatively, like I would never do that. Or like I hate when people DM me and cold DM me and pitch me. I mean, I get it. I don't particularly love when I don't think it's the most effective strategy. This is not an argument for that. However, I'm really mindful to catch myself on those judgments because I know whatever I'm judging, I am telling my brain, this is bad. I don't want this. And I also know my subconscious mind is running my business 95% of the time. And so if there's something I'm saying, I don't want this, I think this is bad, my brain is going to do what it can to make sure I don't get whatever I'm judging. If I'm judging someone for going out there and selling, or going out there and getting visible, or going out there and sharing their ideas, or going out there and being brave, that is not a message I want to send to my brain that I want to stop and I want to make not happen. And so I think it's, again, just something to be mindful of and notice. Is this something you're judging? If so, what's that judgment around? And how can you reframe this into discernment? Now, discernment, I think, is a lot more neutral. And it's really coming from this neutral place of, I am weighing the options here. I'm getting clear on what does and doesn't serve me. I'm still making a judgment, but I'm not making a judgment from a negative place or putting someone down. It's more from a place of, I'm choosing what does and doesn't serve me. I'm choosing what I do and don't want to do. I can look at someone, I'll use the cold DMs as an example, cold pitching me and sliding into my DMs with offers that don't make sense. And I can be judgy about that and negative about that. Or I can have a more neutral perspective and be discerning and say, I don't love this. Like this doesn't really compel me to buy. This is not how I want to show up in my business. But like, I'm not mad at this person. More power to you. Like, I'm going to like high five them for their hustle and not essentially shit on someone for doing the best they know how, with the resources and tools they have. And can you see how like one is much more empowering and puts you back into that seat of neutrality where you can decide what makes sense for you and your business. And one is much more negative and charged and can be a lot more disempowering. Let me know if that difference makes sense, because it feels so important. And again, this is not an argument for like do cold DM or do reels or anything like that, but just starting to notice what the mindset is behind choices you're making in your business and looking for those opportunities again to get curious. Because again, what I find, so we'll use Instagram reels for an example. I found, and again, this is just the conversation I think we're all having right now, but insert any new platform or any new tool that is coming out in the online space. It just happens to be what's really relevant right now. When these judgments are coming up, I find it's really interesting how quick our brain is to judge something we have not actually done ourselves. And it's sort of, what's the Brene Brown quote? If you're not in the arena, you don't get a vote. Someone want to Google Brene Brown's quote. It's a great quote, but it's essentially, if you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked, you don't get a vote or you don't get a say. And I think that's a little bit when we're looking at these things from the mindset perspective. If you're not in the arena trying these things, I think it's really important to catch yourself and be mindful of those judgments. And here's the other reason for that. Because those judgments you have on someone else are also the same judgments that keep so many of us from wanting to show up and try new things. Because if you're judging someone else for doing something you've never done before, essentially the story you're telling yourself is other people will judge me if I do this, or if I do something other people aren't doing, and they're going to make fun of me or dislike me or think I'm stupid or think I'm not good at what I do or fill in the blank, whatever that thing is there. And so I think it's really, really disempowering, especially if you haven't tried something before. This is, again, not to say you now need to go try everything or that this is an argument to go do this in your business, but I think from a mindset perspective, just noticing when those judgments want to come in, especially for something you haven't tried, and just catching yourself and saying, I don't get a vote here. Like, I don't get to judge if I haven't done this myself. I just don't get to judge. And seeing that not only is that kinder and more empowering for the other person, but it's going to support your mindset for things you do want to try to help shift that narrative around other people judging you. Because I do think when we are judging other people, that is generally the same mindset that is very scared or timid to want to try new things because they are scared other people will judge them for the same. Does this rationale make sense? Let me see here. Oh, comment. Christine says, makes total sense. You're so right. Hey, Christine. Stephanie says, hey, Kim. Hey. I feel like that deserves a hey. Hey, Miss Stephanie. Heather says, if you're not in the arena, oh, thank you. Heather, bless you. Heather pulled up the quote for us. If you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked on occasion, I'm not interested in or open to your feedback. There are a million cheap seats in the world today filled with people who will never be brave with their own lives, but will spend every ounce of energy they have hurling advice and judgment at those of us trying to dare greatly. Their only contributions are criticism, cynicism, and fear-mongering. If you're criticizing from a place where you're not also putting yourself on the line, I'm not interested in your feedback. This is Brene Brown, not me. Oh, that almost it's like goosebumps. That is exactly what we're talking about here. And I think this is the mindset to lovingly check yourself on. Again, everyone's human. We all judge. I judge, you judge, we all judge. Like, this is just us, how we are as humans. Check yourself, though. We just all get an invitation here to have some awareness on, am I judging, and am I judging from the cheap seats, as Brene Brown says? And if so, can I check myself? And instead of judging, give some fucking applause to the people who are brave enough to be in the arena, doing the best they know how, especially when we're looking at creatives, artists, business owners, any of you who are putting yourselves out there, as Brene Brown says, daring greatly. That gets applause, even if it's not something you would choose to do from a place of discernment. Discernment says, and this is the difference, discernment says, I applaud you. Fuck yes, you go get yours. And I can see this isn't in service for me, my business, what I want to do. I'm having that discernment from a neutral place. I'm not judging, but you go get yours. So I'm hoping that difference makes sense. And I'm hoping this also will give some permission from a mindset perspective. And then we'll chat practical so you can see how can you be discerning. But I'm hoping this will also give some permission to those of you who are in the arena getting your ass kicked and testing and being, the first people who are trying and adopting new things. Give yourself a personal round of applause and a pat on the back, because it's so much easier to do anything in business when hundreds of thousands of people have gone before you. I'm personally not, Clubhouse is, I did a whole live on this. It's not my personal platform of choice for very neutral strategic decisions. And I have gone into the arena to get my ass kicked, or so to say, to try it myself. But I so applaud the people who are in there figuring it out, testing it, making it work for them. And I think if you are one of those people on any of these places, give yourself some credit for that, because I do think it takes a different kind of bravery than those of us who are waiting on the sidelines until someone will show us the way or show us that it's safe. So off my soapbox there, but that feels really, really, really important for those of you who are daring bravely, as Brene Brown would say, but also for all of us to just be so mindful of with anything in business, because we're talking social strategy here, but I said, and selling, this comes up so much when we're looking at selling. I mean, everyone, be real honest with yourself. When you started your business, or if you're just starting your business now, this might be a story that's coming up for you. I know how easy it is, because I hear this from clients all day, all week long, how easy it is to get into judging people who are out there selling or owning their results or bragging on themselves or anything that falls into that marketing selling category, and judge that because you're not in the arena getting your ass kicked. And what we want to keep going back to is, oh fuck, I'm judging. What does that judgment really say about me? Maybe you're scared to go out there and sell. Maybe you're scared to go out there and own your work. Maybe you're scared to go out there and try something new. Why are we judging someone else? And how can we, again, get back to a place of discernment to see what serves you in your business? All right. That is the big mindset piece I wanted to chat. And then I wanted to chat a little bit more on, okay, so if we're getting clear judgment, discernment, and we are getting out of judgment or judging other people, both of these are really judgments, and getting to more of a neutral place, and applauding those people, even if it's not what we want to do, but applauding the people who are being brave enough to go out there. Like, anyone who's going out there and in the arena for their business gets a round of applause, period. Even if you're spamming me with DMs, you still get my applause. And then looking at, so when we're in a place of discernment, which is more of that neutral judging place, what are some of the things from a practical, tactical place when we're looking strategically at social media strategy and social selling, at selling overall, that you might want to look at to get clear on, do you try Clubhouse? Do you do Instagram Reels? Do you bury your head in the sand and ignore everything? Really, how are we looking at some of these things? So the first, and I've got just a couple things I'll play with here, but let me just see if we have any comments. I don't think so. But let me know if you have questions, comments. When I'm on Zoom in here as well, it is so, I wish y'all could see my screen. It is like the things just pop up all over the place. It's very, very funny. Nope, that's not what we want. That's not what we want. I wanted to have my notes because I know I had a couple different things I wanted to share here. So one of the first things I think is just helpful to remember as we're talking about any of these things here is that a social media platform or a feature on a social media platform like an Instagram reel is not your strategy. It is a tool that you are using your strategy to leverage your strategy. And I guess you could say it's a part of your strategy because yes, it's helping you get visible and helping you get in front of other people. But I really want to remember what is going to make any platform work for you? What's going to make Reels work for you? What's going to make Clubhouse work for you? What's going to make anything work for you at the end of the day is not the platform or aspect of the tool itself, but how you're using it, how you're working it. And that's always going to come back to, are you clear? It's my coaching framework, right? Clarity, mindset, strategy, and action. Are you clear on how you're using this, what your offer is, what your messaging is? Is your mindset in check, right? Are we in discernment? Are you sold on what you're selling? Do you believe in your work? Do you believe in what you're offering? Are you getting in your own way or not? It's always going to come back to that mindset. And then it's looking at strategy in terms of what's your messaging, what's your marketing strategy, what is actually the content, the actual content of your content, and are you selling? And then are you taking action consistently in a way that makes sense for you and your business? And I think just remembering things might change. Those parts are never going to change. And I really want to highlight that because the brain can get super wackadoo whenever something new rolls out. And I think just remembering the basics don't change, even if you're going to use something new or add on something new strategically, those basics do not change, which also means when we're looking at the strategy piece here it's sort of like, are you going to write a blog or are you going to do a video, go live? At the end of the day, both of those are going to work for you. It's what is the actual content you're sharing in the blog or in the live that's going to make the difference in terms of conversions and sales. And are you actually selling? And do you actually have a sales process? And do you have the mindset to support it? Not, is a blog or a live stream better for your business? And so I think that's the first thing, just from a really practical place to remember when you're getting into a place of discernment and looking at the things, platforms, tools you want to use in your business. I think with social media, it's always just so helpful to remember these are tools. These are tools. These are tools. I think about this artists. If you think about an artist's tools, a paint and a paintbrush, right? Paint and a paintbrush, that is the tool that they use to paint a canvas. That canvas and the beauty of their art and how that art resonates with their audience is all in how they use the paintbrush, how they use the paint. It's all in the clarity, strategy, mindset, action, with that paintbrush. Same with, I think what's people use, it's sort of like a hammer and a nail. Hammer and a nail are a tool. It's all in how are you using that tool? Even a hammer, right? That can be a tool that is used for good to make furniture or for bad as a weapon. And just remembering it's never just the platform or tool alone. It's all in how you're using it. And that doesn't go out the window. And I say this because the most important things when you're getting clear on things is like knowing, am I clear on how I'm going to use something? And how can I make it my own and make it work for me instead of it working me? So how can you make a platform or a tool your own? How can you make it work for you instead of it working you? And I think, again, that's getting clear on what is it that you're putting into the platform or tool instead of expecting it to be what works for you. Let me know if this makes sense. I feel like I have to toggle back and forth to find. No questions. I always want to make sure this is clear for you. So let me know if you have questions always, or if you have any questions that are unrelated to what we're talking about. So really important there. That's what I'm always checking in with clients, reminding them of. Other thing I'm looking in with, and we're always checking in with when we're looking at adding on we'll use Clubhouse, for example, is really where are you at in your business? And what does your business need from you? What does your business need? And what is your goal in business currently? And obviously everyone listening, you're gonna have different answers for this, but getting really clear on this and having this on your dashboard is just important anyway. This is going to serve your business strategy anyway. But when we're looking at things like adding on a new platform or adding on a new tool and you're not sure, getting clear on some of these answers are going to really help you make strategic decisions, have discernment, and to have discernment from a neutral place in terms of what serves your business instead of making a decision placed on a judgy thing. Because I think judgy, hey, we could go the other way with judge, going back to the mindset piece. You could also watch someone's reels all day long and think they're the coolest things ever and think that someone looks so amazing and cool and judge in a positive way. And that still wouldn't really be making a decision for your business from a place of discernment and from a place of what actually serves you in your business. What are your business goals? So hopefully that makes sense. Other thing I'm always checking in and asking clients when we're looking at some of these things are, what are you already doing? What's your strategy already? And how does this fit into that? So got 3 other questions. I'm actually gonna tell you all the things I'm asking clients, and then I'll give you some examples as to how that plays together, because I think it'll make a little more sense. The other thing I'm looking at what we're talking about is, what is your communication style? And what's your audience's communication style? And I'll explain that in a moment. And then what is your consistency schedule and what can you be consistent with? So I'm just seeing here. Oh, and the last thing we're looking at is, what are you already doing? I think I said this already, but what are you already doing strategically? Where are you already showing up? And how does this fit into that? How does this support that? So, and then overall, we're taking a testing mindset And again, I'll break this down and give some examples, but I think it's helpful to hear this all. Like this is literally what I'm chatting with clients about. We're then approaching anything new that we're going to try from a testing mindset. I feel like I talk about this so much, but I'm going to talk about it again. So I'll kind of reverse engineer this, but a testing mindset essentially means everything in business is a test always. Putting out a new offer, if you're trying new messaging, business is always a test. We don't know the answers in advance. I think one of the biggest things that screws up entrepreneurs and gets them stuck is wanting to know all the answers in advance. I think always lovingly giving my clients a hard time around wanting to know the answers in advance. I don't have the answers in advance. You don't have the answers in advance. Coca-Cola doesn't have the answers in advance. No one has the answers in advance. We find out in business by making hypotheses, by being little scientists and making educated guesses based on our audience, based on our offer, based on what we know, based on whatever data you already have. And then we go out and test things and we collect data and we get information. When you're trying something new, I think having a testing mindset, especially if you're going to have the discernment, you're like, yes, I'm going to try a new platform. Yes, I'm going to try a new tool. Having a testing mindset so that you can go out there and actually try before knowing the answers in advance is always going to serve you. But then you also give yourself permission to get that data to be able to refine what you're doing. So in terms of, so that's the testing piece. In terms of some of these other pieces here, let me break them down for you because I know I threw a couple different ideas out there. I think I was talking about like, what are you already doing? What serves your business? It was the first thing. And what serves your business goals? So important to know this. I so often a client will come to me and they want to try something new. I'm like, great, what's the goal for that? And they're like, I don't know. And my clients, I love you and I love to give you a hard time. So don't mind me pushing buttons, but I think it's really fascinating how like when we're in a judging place, positive or negatively, how quickly we want to make decisions that we don't even realize why. We're not in a place of discernment, right? We don't even know why we're making those decisions. And so I think it's really helpful just again to go back to what does your business need and what are your business goals? If your business goals currently are to launch a new group program, for example, this is a conversation I was having with a client in the past week. And part of that means bringing in more people and growing your audience. You're going to have a very different goal that's going to ask you to do different things. It's going to ask different things of your strategy than if you're someone like me where you're focused on one-on-one and you're fully booked. Right? We have different goals in business. We have different things we're looking at. We are in different stages of business. We have different things that are going to serve our business, even if we're in the same industry. And that is going to make a big, deciding factor in terms of like what makes sense for you to do, where it makes sense for you to show up, what it makes sense for you to add into your business. And so if you're in a place of judging, it's really hard to get clear on those things. If you're in a place of discernment, it's a lot easier then to discern what some of those answers are and what is actually strategically going to make sense to get you there. I think that makes sense for everyone. One of the other things we're looking at is what's your communication style and what's your clients or audience's communication style. So I have a client who her clients are all moms, and we have gotten really clear that like one of their communication styles is not consuming really long ass PDFs and really long documents. They're busy moms. It's not that they don't like to read. It's not that they don't like PDFs. They're busy. They like short, easy, bite-sized things. So we know communication style for her audience needs to be short, easy, bite-sized things. We also know audio works really well for them or like short, snappy things. And so we're strategically making sure when she's whatever platform she's in that we're looking at her audience's communication style. And we're also looking at how does she like to communicate? What's the easiest thing for her? What's the way she shows up and shines? What's the thing that really makes sense in terms of the work she does and how she's communicating with clients? Because we always want to make sure what you're doing in your marketing matches what you're selling on the back end, as much as possible. And so for her, what is going to make sense strategically is going to look very different than for someone whose clients love PDFs or clients who love, long text form, or if you're someone who loves to communicate through writing, and that's also something that's a big part of the course you sell. Just using that as an example. And so I think thinking about some of those things can help you have discernment to make decisions. Again, whether it's showing up on lives or on reels or on Clubhouse, all of these things are really going to help make sense. if you're like my client whose clientele are busy moms, and her communication style is like quick, short, like video type stuff and easy to consume stuff. Clubhouse, for example, might not make the most sense because her busy moms probably aren't hanging out on Clubhouse for hours at a time. Doesn't mean it's a bad, what do you call it? Is it an app? Would you call it an app? It's not like it's a bad app or it's a bad platform. It just doesn't really make sense for her communication style or for the way her people consume and probably where they're hanging out. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions. Y'all are so quiet. So I'm just gonna keep rolling. You interrupt me if you have questions. I'm hoping this isn't one of those things where Facebook isn't showing me them. Seeing what were some of the other things here. I feel like I had a big piece here. You have to remind me if I'm missing out on something. Oh, and then the other piece here we're looking at is the consistency. What is your consistency schedule already, and what can you be consistent with? So I think it's really fascinating when new stuff pops up where like it's like the pendulum swings. We either want to avoid it completely or people want to just like run at it. And I don't know that like one's not better than the or worse than the other. But I think the thing to remember is this kind of goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. The end of the day, basic business principles apply, basic foundational strategies apply across the board, whether you're on Clubhouse, whether you're using Reels, whether you're having Facebook groups, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether you're using email marketing, right? It's still the content of your content, and things like consistency still matter. And so I think it's almost like this thing where it's like, oh, well, consistency goes out the window. And I always want to keep coming back to what is something you can still show up for consistently. And I always like to remind people consistently doesn't necessarily mean every single day, but whatever your what does consistency look like for you if you're going to add this on? And if you can't add this on consistently and make it work for you instead of it working you, it probably doesn't really make sense to do. It's probably not a sustainable strategy or tool for you. So I'm going to use Instagram stories as an example. Those are something, if you don't know, I do Instagram stories. I do bite-sized biz lessons 3 times a week, sometimes 4, generally 3. This is my example here. Video, like Instagram, we'll walk through a couple things here. I'm already using Instagram. I already know my communication style, my client's communication style. I love doing video. I love connecting with y'all in video. I know, video works well for me because I love getting to share. I feel like it's the closest to getting to have you experience what it'd be like if we worked together. So it's all congruent there for me. It's an app I'm already on. So I'm always, we're looking at like, are you trying something new or are you building onto whatever already, can't even see the words, well, you've already got. I've already got Instagram working. So stories, I wanted to start adding those in because it makes sense for me for multiple reasons strategically, and it makes sense for the way I'm already communicating with people. And then when I'm looking at consistency, looking at the way I can make stories work for me instead of it working me is seeing what consistency looks like, how I can make this sustainable is showing up 3 times a week with video instead of 7 or instead of 5. But then being consistent with that and making sure I build a strategy for myself, a schedule around that, so I can be consistent around that. And we have other things we show up in stories with, but in terms of those videos there, and seeing consistency doesn't have to be every day, but I still need to use that consistently and work that consistently if I expect that to work for me as a part of my social strategy to be able to sell from. If I just want to try stories because someone said stories are what you need to do on Instagram, and it's sort of like once in a while I'm doing one here, once in a while I'm doing one here, once in a while I'm doing one here, that's not consistency. And that's just a general basic business principle, foundational principle that supports your strategy and allows you to sell. A whole nother conversation. I'm sure I've done like 18,000 lives, if that was even a number, on consistency and just how important that is for your own self-trust and the trust you build with your audience. And I think we could all see, right? Like if someone's just showing up from time to time, it's not that it's bad, but it doesn't build trust up with you. It's not really serving the strategy. And so when we're looking at that discernment and making those decisions, something I think is just always really helpful to look at is Is this something you can add in consistently in a way that is consistent for you? Again, consistency does not have to be every day. And get really clear on what is your consistency schedule with adding this new thing in, so you can really work whatever you're adding, make it work for you instead of it working you. Just checking here. Christine says, makes sense. Thank you. Still listening. Thanks for the, thank you all. I clearly have a deep need to be heard and understood. I always like to joke about that because I feel like I was like, does that make sense? Does that make sense? So thank you. I appreciate you. Helpful. Let me know if you have questions as well. So that was the piece, that was the other piece there. The last thing I'm chatting with clients about and we're looking at, well, not the last thing, there's like two pieces here. The other two things we're taking a look at with these pieces. So the other thing I said is, what's the business goal? I think something to remember, and this is kind of a general piece here, is taking a look at what are you already using, and is this, or what platform are you already using, and is this a part of this? Does this add to what you're already doing? This does not mean you necessarily need to use whatever the new feature is, but I think there's a very big difference with, are you already on Instagram? Is that where you're already showing up? Are you already using the features? Is that the app you're working? Is that a big part of your visibility strategy? Or are you on LinkedIn and Instagram isn't really a big part of that? And so, and would jumping onto Instagram to start doing Instagram reels to just be a complete distraction and a complete swing and really just jumping around. And I offer this because I think that is, again, where discernment comes in. What I think is very, very easy whenever new stuff is rolling out, because everyone's talking about it, especially if you consume content on other platforms than the main platform you show up for your audience, or where you're building an audience, or where you're hanging out. It's very easy then. Marketing is going to tell you how important it is to do that thing. We saw this with Clubhouse. When Clubhouse first came out, I think people are still talking about it to some degree. I don't know. I don't actually spend a lot of time on social media, all consuming content, so I don't actually know. But I know when it first came out, because I heard from so many clients, that's all anyone, like, people were just talking about it nonstop, and people were also telling you why you needed to get onto that app. Same with if you spend a lot of time on Instagram, anyone who is on Instagram selling, teaching Instagram stuff is going to tell you how important reels are right now. That's the noise, so to say. And it's not that they're wrong. It's not that those are bad or wrong, but I think just noticing that's very normal. And if you're not clear and you don't have discernment and you're not clear on what your goals are and where you're already hanging out, and you're feeling, judgy or insecure, any of the things, it's very easy when you have this noise in your face to just want to jump around. And I know I talk about this in so many different ways, but staying focused on your strategy, that consistency piece, is going to always be the thing that works in business and that serves you. And this is just a really great place to check in with, what are you already doing? And how does this new thing support what you're already doing? Is it supporting or is it distracting? If you are, let's say you're on LinkedIn and you're like, oh, but so-and-so is going to teach me a course on Reels, there's a very good chance, I don't know, I can't say, I'm not in your business, but there's a very good chance that is not adding to what you're doing. That is a big distraction. If you're already on Instagram and that's what you're fucking rocking all day long and it's working for you, and that's where you're already have a strategy that's solid and your messaging is on point, your content's on point, you know what I mean? Like, you're already selling from there, then that's a very different conversation, because this is something that is probably going to add to what you're doing. On any app, whenever they add a new feature, that's what they want you to use. It's going to support the algorithm. Again, this does not mean you now need to go use Reels. I really, I'm indifferent in terms of, same with Clubhouse, same with LinkedIn. I'm indifferent. It's what works for you, what works for your communication style, what works for your audience, what works for your consistency style. But that's a very big difference. Is this something you can easily add on to what you're already doing that is in service and is going to support what you're already doing, that feels easy to add on, that feels like something you can sustain? Or is this like a whole brand new thing? Two very, very, very different things. And I would check in, I would just give yourself that invitation to check in, because one is probably, again, I don't know the behind the scenes of everyone listening in business, but one is probably going to be a distraction, where another one could be an addition. And I think the important thing to see is, and this is where it's like the tool or the platform is the same. If we use the LinkedIn to Instagram Reels as an example, the Instagram Reels, that tool is exactly the same. But for one person, it's going to be a distraction. For another person, it's going to be a tool that really helps them grow, get a larger reach. So hopefully that makes sense. Just check in here. And then what was the other piece I was going to share here? I feel like I have 8,000 things around this because I've just been talking about this with clients so much. How does that fit in? What was the last thing I wanted to share here? I feel like there was one more piece. I gave the consistency schedule. We talked about testing. Oh, and then the last thing here is if you are gonna, the last thing I would play around with from just a really practical, tactical place, and this goes back to how can you make this work for you? I think reels are a really great example. Again, this is not a conversation if you should or shouldn't do reels, but I think the invitation here is instead of judging, if you're thinking about doing it, I would offer go try it. If it's something you're going to do, go try it one before you judge. And it's sort of like with Clubhouse. I have an opinion on Clubhouse and how it worked for me in my business because I've gone and tried it. Ironically, I am doing a panel this Friday if anyone wants to join on Clubhouse. But that is an exception, not the rule, because I've gone and tested it. And so the invitation, if there is then something that you have had discernment around, instead of judging it and you've had discernment and you want to test it out, go try it. Just go try it and see. And I'm always telling clients this, like when they have a new offer, something they want to put out, I'm like, so let's just go test it. Let's go test it and see. Go test it and see. And then the invitation that I would play with is, and then see how you can make it work for you. I personally just started doing reels. I don't know how much I'll do them. They're not going to be like a big part of my strategy, but I really enjoy them. But that is also because it so fits in with my personality type, my communication style. I think they're really easy. There's a lot of things there. It's really easy for me to repurpose content with them. I just think they're fun. But I'm absolutely I went in and tried it and tested it, and I'm finding a way to make it really easy for me. And I'm finding a way to make it my own. What I find doesn't make sense for me, doesn't make sense for my business, does not make sense for my business goals. Again, given my business goals I'm fully booked. I have a couple spots opening up in May and June. I've got very different business goals than if I were like one of my clients who is, got an upcoming launch or got an upcoming book launch or something like that. Very different business goals and business needs. If I were in that position, I might look at reels a little differently. But for me, I'm on client calls pretty much all day long. I'm supporting clients behind the scenes all day long. I don't have a ton of extra time to play around with making cool videos. I have some friends who are doing amazing things with reels, but it makes sense for their business. It makes sense for what their business needs are. It makes sense in terms of how they can leverage their time. All of this is a long-winded way of saying I'm making it work for me. I'm not doing it in a way a lot of people are. I'm not pointing at words. It doesn't make sense for me. I'm not dancing. I actually have no problem. I'm an ex-cheerleader. I have no problem dancing, but it really doesn't make sense for me and what I'm selling, nor do I have the time or bandwidth for that. I'm simply hopping on and chatting because that mimics what I already do. And I offer that as an example of not this is how you should go make reels at all, but as a way to say, go, if you're going to go do something, go test it, go try it, and then find the way to make it work for you that you can stick with. That is something I know I can stick with. I know I can do that once a week. I know anything more complicated in my business with my business schedule, with how we work, it's not going to make sense. And it's not going to give me the ROI for the time I'm going to put into it. If I spent all day making a really cool edited reel, it would be so much fun. The ex-actress in me would love it. It would actually probably bring me a lot of enjoyment. However, for the time, the energy, the ROI, what it would actually do for my business would not make sense. So I think these are all things I'm chatting about with my clients. And I want to bring it here because these are all things I want to invite you to think about when you're making these decisions. Again, so you're making these decisions in your business from a place of discernment and actually discerning what serves my business, what serves my business goals, what's going to give me an ROI, what makes sense, what serves my community, what serves my communication style, what serves my audience's communication style, what is the tool that I can leverage here, what can I be consistent with, what can I be sustainable with, how can I ask myself better questions to make a neutral decision for my business instead of getting wrapped around judgment or wrapped around stories and making decisions trying to make decisions from that place and claim that those are strategic. That is when we end up jumping around. That's when strategy's all over the place. That's when business decisions are made based on emotion and tend to be very reactive instead of responsive. So those are all the things I am telling clients. And then the last thing, I think I said this a couple minutes ago, but I think I'll just recap on this. Just as a general thing when I am asking clients, like if they want to test it, again, just as a general reminder with anything. So something like Clubhouse, like a reminder, anytime you're a new adopter on something, if it makes sense for all the discerning reasons, there's a lot of benefit to being an early new adopter to something. Again, lots of reasons if you're coming from a place of discernment where it also wouldn't make sense, but there can be a lot of benefits to being an early adopter. And anytime we're on a social media app and a new tool or a new way to use the app rolls out, I think just a general like tidbit reminder thing that generally means if you use that, it's going to help your algorithm if it's something that makes sense for you and if that's important to you, because generally any app we're on is a business that is making money. And the way they make money is through ad spend. And the way they make money from ad spend is by keeping people on the app. And they will generally put features that they think people want to consume more of that are going to keep people on the app, because that is how they generate these statistics that allow them to generate what they are going to charge for ad spend for, whether it's a company like, business like you and me, or a really big business like Coca-Cola. I don't know why I keep going with Coca-Cola today. I have not had a Coke in, 10, 15 years, but apparently that's my example today. But whatever company is running ads, what that ad spend is determined on, it's based on how many eyeballs they can get for that ad. Same way if, we think about a television ad, Super Bowl ads are more expensive than whatever someone's going to spend for a local TV station ad because of the number of eyeballs they're going to get on that. The number of eyeballs on social media are based on how long we spend on the app. So what any platform is thinking, or, I don't actually know, I'm not at the headquarters of Facebook, but in terms of like the algorithm, a lot of times what it has to do with is they're looking at users and what users are spending time consuming and rolling out features that people want to consume more of. And those are generally going to be what get preferential algorithm treatment, because the Facebooks and Instagrams and LinkedIns and Twitters and Snapchats and whatever else is out there, Clubhouse, whatever the cool kids are using these days, they want to keep people on the app so that they can make more money. Just like you and I want to make more money. You know what I mean? So, and I think just knowing that can be helpful when you're being discerning and you're making decisions. Again, don't do things that don't make sense for you. Don't do things you don't like. Don't do things that you don't want to do. But then if you are looking at like, hey, my business needs more eyeballs, my business needs more clients, whatever that is, and there's something new rolling out on the app you're already on, there's a good chance that is something that the algorithm is going to give some preference to. All right. Oh, I feel like I just talked a whole lot about social media, which is funny to me because I love and appreciate social media. Again, so much. I wouldn't be getting to hang with all of you if it's given me so much. And I always like to have that attitude of gratitude, as my bonus son says about social media. But I think it's also funny because for as much as I personally leverage social media and talk with clients about it, it's also something I don't spend a lot of time on. And I share that as kind of a closing thought, because I think there is something when we're using social media in our strategy and in our marketing, and this is something I chat with clients about quite a bit, and we're looking at everything we talked about today, I think it can be easy to feel like you're always needing to be on social media and you always have to be on and you always have to pour out and you always have to consume. And I think that is the piece that can feel very heavy for people. I know this is true because this is definitely a conversation I'm having a lot. And I want to offer that you can leverage social media. You can use social media as a part of your social strategy and as a part of your selling strategy. You can show up and connect the way we are here and share content and share value and sell without having it feel so heavy, without needing to be on it every second of every day. And it might almost be a different conversation, but I think reminding yourself that, and reminding yourself, looking at how can you be very discerning and clear and strategic with where you're putting your time, how you're leveraging your time on social media, so that you don't feel like you're pulled in all the places and need to be all the places all the time is going to make a really, really big difference. And also making these clear decisions in your business, because I find part of it is also having all the open tabs and decisions. Should I be on this app? Should I do Reels? Should I be on Clubhouse? All of that takes up a lot of mental energy, which can make you feel like you're on and doing a lot more versus the actual time you're spending on. So I think just reminding some of those so you can take some of the heaviness out so that even showing up on social media can feel a little more neutral. And I will share, I think it seems probably like I'm on social media all fucking day long. And I'm on for a very limited amount of time outside of, hanging out with all of you and getting to engage a little bit here in the group every day because of everything we talked about today. So I hope that's helpful. And just a reminder, it doesn't need to feel so heavy, even if you're showing up and leveraging social. And I say that because, again, just so I know some of the stories and the judgments that can come up around social media sucking or being a drain or all the negativities we want to have in there. And just, again, kind of to the beginning of the conversation, noticing where that's coming up and seeing how you can get to neutral around that. So hope that's helpful for you. If you're watching on the replay, let me know if you have any questions about this, reflections. And then always feels, I should walk my talk here, always feels important to say, if you want support around any of this, particularly around the mindset, I'm excellent at the strategy side. I'm excellent at the messaging and the marketing and sales and creating a sales process that allows you to make more money without the ick factor, without all the yucky, gross, old school, yucky tactics. But mindset is also, I think it's 95 to 99% of everything in business and what is always running the engine of your business. And my personal love and what I think is underneath, my clients will laugh because it always comes back to mindset. If that's something you're looking for support with in your business, so you can take it to the next level, so you can, scale and hit those record-breaking income months without feeling the heaviness and do it your way, that is what I do. I would love to connect with you. I have some spots opening up in May and June. So April's full, but I do have some one-on-one spots opening up in May and June. Spots do tend to go quickly, so that if that is something you want to talk about, I'll drop a link. Book a call with me. They are very low pressure, very low key. I'm very into fit, so I will not pressurize anyone. And most people say they get a lot of benefit from those calls along. Christine says, thanks for sharing your great insights. Thank you for joining, y'all. Thank you for being here. This is one of my favorite parts of, outside of supporting my clients, because that's my favorite thing ever, but I love getting to hang with y'all every week and getting to share this. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for hanging. And then I'll back next week. We'll have another topic for you then. Lots of love, y'all. But I always forget when I do this. This is so funny. I'm saying bye, but I have to find, whenever I do this from Zoom, and I'm looking at the comments here, I can never find the Zoom thing to hang up. There we go. End meeting for all. Bye.